But my philosophy is very simple. When you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, say something, do something, get in trouble, good trouble, necessary trouble.
Strength and solidarity. The strength and solidarity. Divided is our nation, combating and fighting hatred. The mission, should you choose to accept it, is fighting racist. Psychology is just a space where we run in our simulations. We load you up with the tools, then we plug you into the matrix. So have a seat on the couch, now tell me your situation. Take a look in the mirror, be honest, just who you facing. Marginalized as a youth, what challenges were you faced with? Feeling you wasn't equal, told that you wouldn't make it. Your ID isn't real, got you constantly trying to fake it. Hiding behind masks in the closet till you can't take it. Getting harder to breathe, someone choking you on the pavement. Unspeakable violence attacking you cause you Asian. Accomplices we accomplish through collaboration, engaging, educating, evaluating one another, liberating the future of all our sisters and brothers, empowering, elevating all communities of color. Strength and solidarity. The strength and solidarity.
The Strength and Solidarity podcast is a conversational piece that invites scholars, community activists, leaders, artists, and entrepreneurs to discuss their work as accomplices in cultivating cross-racial ethnic solidarity. Hosted and produced by Pooja Mamidana and Dr. Donna Deminari, our podcast team also includes our podcast interns, Alexis Rios and Petra Zadroga. The Strength and Solidarity podcast strives to engage, educate, evaluate, and empower communities of color, one episode at a time. Our guest today features Juan-Lorenzo Cruz. He is the chief engineer at Hotel Caza, situated in Fisherman's Wharf, San Francisco. While originally attending Humboldt State University, now known as Cal Poly Humboldt, he studied psychology and art. His move further south to Sonoma County is where he found his first substantial long-term homosexual relationship, as well as the opportunity in which his current career is built. While his primary job takes most of his time, he go-go dances weekends at various SF clubs, including the Eagle and Powerhouse. He enjoys snowboarding, dancing, and finding new music, as well as spending time with friends, catching up on films, and eating good food. Hi, Juan-Lorenzo. Thank you so much for being on our podcast today, Strength and Solidarity with Dr. Donna and I. We are so excited to have you here with us.
Oh, thank you guys for the invitation. I hope this will be a stimulating conversation. I think it will be. Yeah.
So we'd just like to begin. If you could tell us your journey and your chosen career path.
Yeah, I guess that is a journey for sure. So initially, I've always been an artist, and it actually helped me kind of go through and deal with a lot of emotions, like listening to music, which of course is artistry, and then drawing. And so I had one of my favorite comics was Calvin and Hobbes. So I would kind of look at that, kind of draw, copy that, do my mangas and stuff. And like Calvin always, his house was in front of a forest. And so when I was choosing schools, that was one of the things that I wanted. I wanted to be like near nature. I also wanted to follow some people that had already gone to this school because, you know, it's always nice to have community already established. And, you know, with my parents, they wanted the cheapest university, which makes sense. So I ended up going to Humboldt State, and I wanted to initially, I wanted to get an art degree, and then my parents were like, no, we're not going to pay for that. You know, you need an actual money-making degree. So then I chose psychology, And then while I was in school, I changed to back to art.
Wait,
design.
time out.
Yeah.
Psychology, a money-making degree?
Well, I mean,
I just had to.
I mean, it was something other than art for them, and that was like anything but that type deal. Which I kind of like lament because that really propelled me, and it kind of made me sad considering that they couldn't really see the joy that it brought me, and like you know the interest and light that creating things, and the fact that artists are everywhere, and like art is culture out art, people like you make money off that. Anyway, I digress. So I went to HSU psychology, and then I was doing graphic art, and when I was finished with school, I had like a class or two left, and I was like, I'm gonna just head down south because I want to get a master's in illustration. And so I moved down to Petaluma, where I ended up meeting my ex-fiance and his family. And his father actually got me into this career of being a journeyman engineer. And it was initially just like something to kind of like pass time and make money, of course, while I was saving up and trying to like get into an art program. And then it ended up becoming what I've been doing for 13 years. Mm-hmm. And it's not at all what I wanted to do. I never saw myself as a maintenance man, quote unquote, but am I good at it? Yeah, I mean, I'm a director now, so I guess so. Mm-hmm. Would I have rather like stayed with art? Sure. But there's a point in time when you've been doing something for so long that you kind of just fall into it. And yeah, so that's where I am now. I went from LA to Humboldt County to Sonoma County, and now here in the city. So if that answers your question.
Do you still dabble in art?
So that is something that I'm trying to like reconnect with because, like I said earlier, it's helped me deal with a lot of my mental struggles. Mm-hmm. And I have not been putting enough energy into it. I feel like I haven't really sat down and drawn anything in, man, I would say almost a decade, because once this career path took hold, it was like earn as you learn. So I was 8 hours at work and then 4 hours of class afterwards. And then I lived in Sonoma County, so it was 100-mile commute every day. And I was just tired. It would be like work, school, homework, sleep, wake up early, do it again. And I just never gave myself any time to really go back into it. There were periods in which my boss let me do some painting. So I ended up painting like for 3 separate years. I did the backdrops for the Christmas parties. And they were like 12 by 4 foot wooden panels. So they're really nice, like big things. I made Hawaiian 1 year, and then Winter Wonderland another year, and then the third year was Mardi Gras. And so I was able to like really put some creative energy into that. And then also, yeah, it was fun. I think I have some pictures of that, so I can send those to you too. And then for Coachella, I made this peacock tail that was on a belt, and it would actually like you could pull these like straps on it, and it would pull up and fan out like a real peacock tail and go back down. So kind of like putting the two things together. But lately I did some crocheting, but like not really too much artistry lately, and that's something I want to change, because I think it would definitely help with my like anxiety and my like anxious attachment issues, like pulling myself away from like my partner, or like focusing on like these other people and focusing back onto what makes me happy and what like settles me.
Yeah, and it's something you've done like since you were like a child, right? And
Yeah.
it's a coping skill that you've had from then that's really helped ground you. I feel like in some ways it's your form of like meditation. When I talk to my clients about meditation, I don't just think there's one way to meditate. Meditation can be in like so many different forms, and
Oh, totally.
I think it really slows you down and helps you just connect with your mind, body, and energy. So I hope you do get back into it in your own time and be able to find where that fits in your schedule. Because I also have heard how busy you are.
But I do
Yeah.
find it really fascinating that despite how busy you are, you're still able to weave your artistry, in your
Yeah.
work. And I love that. It is important. It's an important aspect of us,
Yes. Yeah. It's very cathartic. Um, and like, the other thing that I do on the side is I will go dance on occasion. And I really love to dance. Like I've been dancing since I was 3. My mom would pit me against my cousin and we'd have like these little dance wars. I used to dance in front of a mirror and just kind of copy and emulate whatever I'd
That's
seen on
cool.
television. And then I never got to do any formal training, but it's just one of those things that was kind of natural for me. And because I enjoy it, people will see when you're doing something that you really love.
Hmm.
And regardless as to whether or not you're good at it, a lot of that comes from just how you channel that energy and how it manifests in your movements and your face and all that. And I really enjoy it. And so that's another form of art that I guess I do. I do that sort of regularly instead of like drawing or painting. So I am still able to get that out. But I do wish I could. I shouldn't say I wish. I should settle and put some time aside to get back to like my roots of
So
drawing and painting.
for those of us who are super boring like myself,
I
so
would
I
not say
don't
that,
I
but
I would not know what the difference between go-go dancing and other forms of dancing. So what does go-go dancing entail?
well, I mean, essentially, it's like your paid entertainer. Um,
Mm,
Almost like a stripper, but I'm already as naked as I will be, which is typically a
cool.
jockstrap or some type of underwear. And I'm dancing at a club on some type of like elevated platform, a box or a stage or something. And I do it for tips. There's base pay and then tips. Typically like 30-minute sets, depending on how long your shift is. It might be 2 hours, but they're segmented into like 4 30-minute sets or however it is. And I've done that in various clubs around here in San Francisco, and I've also done
Mhm.
it for circuit parties. And the difference, between that is like, and a backup dancer would be like a backup dancer has a very choreographed set of movements,
Mhm.
and it's they're there to kind of supplement the main performer and augment their movements, whereas like we are kind of the main performers, and
Mhm.
there is no choreography. It's just us moving. So
I
yeah.
mean, you
That
you do
is
you do your own choreography. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was gonna say that's really impressive because you said you never had formal training with dancing, and yet, because I can imagine a person who does that, even if it's on the side, you have to have a certain physical physique. You keep up with that, and
Yeah.
knowing some dance moves. I mean, that's impressive to me, who is not coordinated.
Yeah. I so like earlier when you spoke about like your energy of like being an artist and things like that. I mean, that's how
Hmm.
that's how I met you. Like I had gone for like to see one of like my favorite DJs at like the summer gathering.
Hmm.
Obsessed with Lane 8, but
Oh yes.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I'd gone to see Lane 8 and he was having the summer block party, and then we had parked our car somewhere at this garage, and then like on our way we heard like more techno music at the Eagle. So my husband was like, hey, like why don't we just like go check it out? And So then that's when I entered, and that's when I saw like Juan dancing, and I was so like mesmerized and like amazed by like just like how he moves, and he is really good at what he does, and like you can really
Nice.
see like the passion in like what he
Mm-hmm.
does. So then we just started talking like while he was dancing, like I went up to him and we were like talking, and I think I even said to you, I was like, I think you're an artist if I have to guess. And then
Aw.
and he, because I could just feel like your aura.
I
Aw.
remember the rings too. I had just come from market days and I had just bought this ring on a whim, and it was like this snake.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
Pooja had a yeah. She's like, oh my God. Like after our pretty much like our hour, 2 hour long segmented conversation, because I would find her, she would find me while I was dancing. And then the last thing when she was leaving was like, oh my God, where did this ring come from? And I was like, I don't know. I just thought it was cute.
Yeah, because it was a snake, and I wear like a snake ring for like religious
Ooh.
purposes. I mean, sorry,
Mhm.
spiritual purposes. So yeah, that was cool. But so as we're talking about like your, I also know in our conversation you had not on the podcast, like offline, you'd
Mhm.
kind of mentioned that you are biracial, right?
Mhm.
And so I was just wondering, like with your biracial and like your intersectional identities and the unique aspects of like diverse multicultural background, can you share with us how your cultural heritage has influenced your journey, especially in like relation to your career and like community involvement?
So yeah, I'm my mom is black and my dad's Puerto Rican. I'm sure there's some other stuff back there, but I don't know too much about that. And it's not really important because ultimately my birth father and I didn't have like too much of a relationship. And my mother and I, we did until some other stuff happened. That's another story. But I being black in America is typically being integrated into some type of religion. And so I was an altar server. I went to Catholic school from K through 12. I was an altar server, religious classes, this and the other. So there was definitely um, the like pray the gay away type of situation from that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I would visit my father in the Caribbean, because he lives in St. Thomas, in Virgin Islands, that is a very mixed race culture. There's a lot of uh, POC there, like darker skinned POC, as well as more lighter skinned Latinos. And the I would say there's a religious component to that as well, but there's definitely more of a just straight up like homophobic component. And so I, from like kind of both sides, was made to feel like uh, who I was intrinsically was there was something wrong, right? Um, and that's a battle that I had to fight for a long time until I basically when I went to college and I started finding different groups to relate to and people from different parts of the world and the country and the state that were like okay with who they were and okay with who I was and allowing me to like kind of branch out and experience myself in that new manner. And so I was no longer really ashamed or afraid to be gay in that respect. um, and then in terms of like, so that community is really which laid the bedrock for me to be able to like move down to San Francisco and be my oh so gay self, walking down the street in heels or like short shorts or whatnot, and not feel too threatened. I mean, it's still a city in America, so you're always kind of wary, but
Mm-hmm.
that definitely gave me the fortitude to just kind of continue in that path. And it's good when you have a very eclectic kind of mix of experiences and backgrounds and whatnot when you're in hospitality, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what it's all about. You meet people from all over the place. And so it's like, oh, what's your name? You're Juan. Oh, where are you from? Oh, you're Puerto Rican. Oh, have you been there? Yes. Da, da, da. Do you speak Spanish? Poorly. So no. And, like there's, oh, we're gay and it's our first time in the city. Can you tell us where to go? And so I'm able to kind of like straddle the line and use my different kind of, multifaceted pieces of who I am in order to engage with people a little more directly and a little more intimately in the hospitality sense. It's a double-edged sword though, because people will kind of self-segregate and of course have issues with various groups no matter who they are. And so you may be a visitor in the city and you may know that San Francisco is the gayest city on the West Coast and still have a problem with homosexuals, and me being like the person to come fix your air conditioner or something, it's like, oh my god, it's this gay dude and he's black and he's like has this Spanish name, and all of that can sometimes bleed out, but typically I haven't had any issue with that. And again, my community that I've built has allowed me to just have some more strength in who I am. That's a struggle every day too, but every day, even if it's a small setback, I'm still reminded that, I am who I am. There are people who care about who I am, and I should care about who I am. And their days are hard, but there's plenty of people behind me to kind of help buoy me through them. If that answers your question, I gotta.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so glad that you're able to find your family, your community. That is very important, especially if you feel that if a person's not feeling that support from their family of origin. But it just shows how, your resiliency, Juan, and thank you for sharing that. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I'm also sorry that, you kind of had to go through that from schooling and like different areas in your life. And sometimes, even though you might be in like a diverse city, like in San Francisco, I mean, just by the way we look or the way we talk, and like you said, like the way our name sounds, there are like overt like microaggressions or things that just can happen like on a day-to-day being, right?
Yeah.
So,
And anti-blackness is real even in the gay community.
Oh, it's rampant. It's terrible. Colorism is a thing. It's amazing. I had a friend that went on a vacation with me, and he is a beautiful Latin man, beautiful, like muscles, like just gorgeous, young looking, like huge dick, like everything that you would want. And he, we went to this orgy, and I got invited before he did. Just happenstance. It wasn't like there was a directory and he was number 42 and I was number 5 or something. It was just whatever. I ended up there before him, and I was like probably 30 pounds heavier, and so I was living my best life, looking my best, being my best self, right? But I still, when I went to this orgy, I was sitting in the corner, and I was talking to a few people, but like hardly anyone was like engaging with me physically. And then maybe I was there 15, 20 minutes, and then he showed up, and immediately it was like locusts, right? Locusts on corn, just swarmed. And then later he talked to me, and he was telling me like, oh, hey Juan, I want to kind of debrief you with this. And like, I just felt a certain way that, you got invited to this thing before I did. And it made me feel like, less attractive. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, what? And it's this light-skinned Latino man that, of course, he has his own issues within the community. But the fact that he's not white passing, but definitely like lighter skin. Here's the colorism. Latino than I am, it allows him a lot more fluidity in the gay diaspora, especially he has muscles too. He's much larger than me. And here he was complaining about how he felt marginalized because he was invited after me while I sat in the corner, not disengaged from everyone. And I just thought it was very, like his view of the situation was very myopic, which of course we all tends to do. Like we live in our own heads. But I was just like, girl, you need to read the room. Like if there were a ladder, I would be at the bottom rung of this ladder compared to you and a bunch of other people because I am kind of more fey, smaller, and darker. And like you have to, I acknowledge your struggle in this too, because obviously everyone has struggles, everyone's struggle is valid, but within the context of this, you're missing the mark. And and it's kind of like, it's not degrading, but it's like, he's, I don't know what the word is, but I just felt very like, it was very insensitive. Considering the fact that I wasn't even like being utilized in that manner, and he just wasn't happy with the fact that his name wasn't listed before me, which also like speaks volumes as to how he feels about me, maybe subconsciously, where it's like, if anything, I should be invited to this thing before or at the same time as you, whereas I don't have a hierarchy, you know? And so that in and of itself places, it speaks volumes as to how men in our community kind of place each other in various statuses. It's like, if you're white, if you're white and masculine, if you're white, masculine, and muscular, those are like the top three. And then
it sounds like there's a hierarchy.
Totally. Yeah. And like we have to navigate through that. And that's part of the self-deprecation, you know, that comes from, first you have to, you're gay, right? So you have to deal with that with your family. And society is telling you that because of your skin, like you are, you should be in the ghetto, or like people are surprised that you speak proper English, or you went to this school, or you have this career. And then you find, and you're gay on top of that. And so then you find this group of men that are also marginalized, and also not just because of their sexuality, but because of their nationality or ethnicity as well. And you're like, oh, awesome. I have found my people. They identify with my struggle. This is going to be easy. And instead you have this like rapid kind of head mashing, and everyone's stepping on top of each other instead of having a cohesive like community bound in struggle together and like reaching for equality together. It's all like just trying to push each other in the water and keep themselves above without sinking. And like it just the narrative of the struggle that we all endure, having to live in a, you know, patriarchal white based society of heteronormativity, like all of this has marginalized all of us in such a manner that we should all be able to identify with each other's various struggles and use that to unify each other, or unify ourselves against this. And yet it's still like lost on so many people. And like I'm guilty of that as well, because of course I grew up here, you know, this is my culture, so a lot of that is ingrained in me, and I have to unlearn it and unpack it. But it's made more difficult when you are part of a community that will continuously codify these standards and like remind you of how little they think of you, subconsciously or consciously. So it's definitely one of those things where it's like racism, colorism, it's rampant, and we do ourselves a disservice when we don't talk about it. And that's for the community and individually, I think.
Yeah. And you know, what you really spoke about is what our whole task force is about, and like what this whole like platform is about. And we actually came up with a model like from the task force. And I feel like what you just shared reminds me of one of our concepts in the model where we talk about intergroup like competition, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how like people from like minority communities with like different like intersecting identities, they kind of get into like this trauma Olympics, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh, I feel this way, no, I feel this way. And what you're kind of saying is, hey, we all have these marginalized identities, but then when we get into that whole like pitting against each other, how is there that cross-racial ethnic solidarity? How are we coming together?
Right.
How are we supporting one another? Right?
Are we progressing?
Yeah, it's a divide and conquer thing. I mean, that's what the system is built, right? It's built so that
totally.
it's dividing all of these marginalized communities.
Mm-hmm.
So in your experience with that friend, though, were you able to actually kind of verbalize your concerns with him and kind of face that head on?
I mean, yes, I was trying to, give some grace and explain it in a manner that wasn't like demeaning, and also like, I'm still learning this. You catch more flies with honey, and you can't just be like, well, sis, da 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 da. Don't come at me like that because you don't know my struggle. Like, clearly, that's not going to work.
Sometimes
also,
I think that might work, though.
I guess depending on who you're talking to, sure.
That's true. That's true.
I don't think he's one of those, though. But yes, I did. But at the same time, I think it was lost at the time. And every other time that he's had conversations like this, it's also like the nugget, the kernel of knowledge kind of gets lost because, and again, I'm also been guilty of this. Like, you are so consumed by your lack of self-esteem or whatever it is that's kind of putting you in that headspace to begin with, that you can see, understand, and kind of empathize with the other person's point of view. But a lot of the time, because it's digging at trauma that is obviously unhealed, and that wound is just being scraped open and scabbed over without being dealt with properly. And so you hear them, but do you really hear them? There's no like integration. And so sometimes that can come off as like kind of a blasé response, like, yeah, no, I know, da, 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 da. But, and then you go back to reciting your main issue. So I think that's happened with him numerous times. And there's a point where you're like, all right, girls, like, I'll come back later when I think you're going to get it.
Yeah, it sounds dismissive.
Right. And I mean, I know that it's not intended to be, but also, the focus at that time is him and his wounds. And so it's more of a like, I don't want to hear your point of view necessarily on this. I just want you to be a sounding board, which of course is fine. I just think he should have picked his sounding board a little more wisely, but I get it. Like, and I definitely needed that sometimes. It's like, please don't give me any advice. Please just listen to what I have to say and then maybe come back later. And when I'm in a more level headspace, we can have this actual conversation. But every time I talk to him about it, it's always been in the auspice of like, I am already feeling a certain way and like, just please soothe me kind of deal. So I don't think it's stuck. I know it hasn't stuck. Just we keep having this conversation. So.
but I think you're like pointing to something like really important, which not just with your friend. I mean, I can also think of like many experiences I've had in like leadership where people behave like this. And they're like psychologists. Okay.
Oh, Pooja, do tell. I'm kidding.
I can't spill the tea on this platform.
I have tea right here.
But we're ready.
We're ready, Pooja.
I have to be cryptic, but what I'm trying to get at, like what I was trying to say is that people don't listen. Right. And there's no, like, I don't think there's anything wrong in him saying, hey, I want you to just listen to me. Right. But it goes both ways. Right. And what is happening in this dynamic is he can say whatever he wants, but when it comes to like your opportunity to be like, okay, like I hear you, but this is also how I'm feeling, and how do we kind of meet in the middle? How do we problem solve? So I feel like in many relationships, right, people don't have that back and forth, and then their ego comes in the way, and then I hate
Yeah.
and I'm sorry I'm saying this, but like, yeah, they victimize themselves, right? Or like a lot of gaslighting happens. And I feel like Dr. Donna and I have seen this in like so many spaces we've been in, right?
Yeah.
Be it in leadership, or be it in conferences we attend, or like people talking about these things, or like even you just sharing this example with us. And I think as a society, if we really want to kind of continue to come together, it's really important that we truly listen to one another, hear what the other person is saying. But if you expect that from someone, it's a two-way street, you know?
I can also understand how difficult it is, especially if the other person is entrenched in their own trauma and haven't yet dealt with that. So their walls are still up, and then they're not ready to hear anybody else's trauma because they're still dealing with their own shit, if you pardon my French here. You know, so but yeah.
I was gonna say the same thing. Like, yes, of course, it's important to listen, and people can oftentimes listen and digest what you have to say, but they are they're not. They don't have the correct tools to really use what you are saying in a way, and like integrate it in a way that they can actually help you or help the relationship. Because it's like, okay, I understand what you're saying, and that makes total sense. But in my worldview, because I'm so used to things playing out this way, either because I hyperfixate, I'm hyper vigilant, or this is my reality, like this has happened to me like this, like clockwork, or all three. You know, it makes it very difficult to make changes for that person, because despite what they have told you, even if you can see their point of view, sometimes you can't see the way of fixing this situation. You know, like you need, and the need for you to be heard and understood supersedes your need to like really listen and integrate, listen to them and integrate what they have to say. And so it's a battle of wills, and then no one feels heard, and then everyone is triggered, and then you know, just
and there goes the solidarity, right?
rain.
It's broken. There's no solidarity after that because it's broken, because of people are just like, oh, okay, you're not listening to me, and the other one's like, I don't feel heard, and it's just
this kind of reminds me of we had the Division 45 conference that happened in San Diego in July, and there was this like mostly people of color attending, right? Because we are the division on race, ethnicity, and culture. And there was this white woman who attended, but she was an accomplice, and like it was nice to see her like attend this conference and like, you know, just listen in these discussions and things like that. And she kind of asked a question in one of the talks I was doing about you know, they're doing all this work for like cross-racial ethnic solidarity with their HR and things like that, but exactly kind of what both of you are talking about, right? Like people get defensive or they don't want to listen and things like that. And hearing you both speak right now about this again kind of reminded me of that conversation. And I kind of want to say that even though people might get defensive or, you know, might be stuck in their trauma narrative or whatever, I do feel like there is some power in having those conversations, right? Of course, if you have the patience and like educating them sometimes,
and the emotional capacity, not just the patience.
Yeah, but I feel like whatever reaction you're getting from them, right? Whether it's the one that we're hoping for or the one that we're not, I feel like you're still affecting some part of their consciousness that's causing them that reaction. So at least some percentage of it might get to them at some point is what I'm hoping for.
I mean, I will speak for myself. The last like relationship that I was in, this guy was like one of my best friends, and it kind of just turned into something. And he and I became extremely close, extremely quickly before we even involved any of the physical stuff. And there was a lot of back and forth, falling in and out. Every time we fell out, we would get back together stronger. This last time, it's just been very, very, very bad. And there's just been no one has the capacity to like really see the other person's side. We just keep stepping on each other's feet and poking each other's wounds, and it's created like this sense of a fog where there's this inability to see like the person in front of you, let alone your nose in front of your face. Like there's just so much just sadness and anger miring the ability for us to communicate effectively. And so we tried like couples therapy. We only went through 2 sessions because like it's so prickly. And even then it was like we decided that this is probably not good for us right now, just as friends even. But I am an anxious attachment, like more of an empathic person, and I'm like very forgiving, and he is avoidant attachment and very like I'm done. But like I know him well enough to know that even though he may be done, that might just be like some time away. Like it has been, like he might need a couple months. He sees me again, we're fine. But this was the first time I would say that we were, at least on my end, were able to like scream at each other and kind of yell. And I heard him more clearly, partially because I had been doing my own research on, I dated a narcissist, so I went through the litany of stuff on that. He's not a narcissist, he's avoidant attachment. But I was like, he fit the profile of like a covert or a vulnerable or an overt narcissist. And everyone has narcissistic, bits to them, but he's definitely not that. And so what is going on here? And so it's like, well, I know this about myself, like recently as well. I'm hitting all these marks. He's also autistic, so let's see if he is like da da da. And I pieced these things together. So when we had our session, and he's telling me like bop 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 bop, I could see like on a dartboard, like yes, I did do that. Yes, I can see how that's upsetting. Yes, I did that, and da da da. And it made me, I wouldn't say for the first time, but like first time in a while, instantly aware of like. More aware of my culpability and the destruction of the relationship, and how I was toxic in certain ways because I was basing my actions were predicated upon a past that had happened with him partially, but also had happened with other people. And I was just fixated on the patterns that I had gotten used to seeing. And so even like understanding his type of his personality, like attachment style, like I could then kind of see through the fog. Finally, it was like there was a searchlight, right? And now I could see, oh, when he did this, that was actually his way of showing that he cared. When he looked at me this way, when he opened up and said something like this, when he gave me a gift, like all these things are all what I do naturally, and this is how I show someone that I care. But with that personality trait, it's like. And the timetable that it took, it seemed natural for us just because we were friends, but understanding that more allowed me to understand how much strength it took and how close he considered us in order to do these things, which then I could see, oh yeah, I fucked that up there because I totally was like reaching for my love language to be spoken to me. And this is where we both messed up. We weren't clear on what we each needed with that, but instead of me acknowledging fully or like understanding what the monumental like how what's the word I'm looking for, momentous this was for him to do these things, I was like, well, it's not enough, I want more, da da da, when I should have been stepping back and being like, this person actually, it took them much shorter a time to do this thing what they normally would have done. And that shows how much they care about me. And I need to praise them for that and appreciate that, because that is a tender moment that I have been ignoring. And there were so many of those that I was like, well, damn, I guess it's too late for this. But now I know in the future, what my isms are.
That's very insightful of you, and to do your homework, to kind of look into that. And I can imagine how painful that would be too, to kind of reflect, to have this inner reflection.
Yeah. And
Well,
also
yeah.
and also to reflect more with us here. Thank you for sharing that with us. And
Yeah, no,
I
of course.
yeah, and I think it kind of goes to like what you were trying to say. I think what I understood of it is, in your own time, like, more of these conversations like kind
Hmm.
of gave you more insight, and each time something that was happening between us, it was kind of chipping at your consciousness a little bit more, but
Hmm.
like you took your time to like let it brew and like sit with it.
Right. And
Yeah.
like, yeah, like you were saying, these, a small percentage is hitting. And so I know that like I am anxious, and I learned that through this conversation, and I know that I attract these people, and I learned that through that
Yeah.
conversation. But this relationship was so different for a variety of reasons, but it touched me in such a way that I wanted to fix it, not desperately, but I really felt the need to fix it. And not even just because of my anxious attachment style. It's like, I miss my friend ultimately. We don't
Yeah.
have to hook up. We don't have to like be in a relationship. I just
Hmm.
miss my friend. So what is it about this that isn't working, and how can we fix that? And part of that, of course, is accepting
Yeah.
that you are one of two parts. So you added joy, but you also added pain to this relationship. And
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
what where can you fix it? And so I was able to really see my patterns as they unfolded, dating back to like my first relationship with my parents, and
Yeah.
so hopefully this will help me in the future. But like, yeah, it's little steps.
Of course it will. And, like that's the whole point of our existence, right? I feel like, I don't mean this in a bad way, but I feel like a lot of people will just die being stuck in those patterns and not really heal from it, right? And like,
Mm,
if you're open to that in your consciousness, you can change and you can grow every day. And majority of the times, what tends to happen, be it like even with like racism or like relationships or anything, right? We are acting on something that has kind of happened to us at some point in our life,
hmm
and that's being
Hmm.
projected onto the present, right?
hmm
But if we kind of take the steps to kind of slow down a little bit and kind of figure out what these patterns are and like dating it back, I think change can happen. And like, I mean, I am a licensed therapist, and I feel like just society also, right? Especially like Western psychology has all these labels, right? Of like anxious avoidant, like narcissistic, borderline, blah, blah, blah. And like, I feel like some of those things are helpful to like a certain extent, but like, again, language is so important. And I feel like it gives you a guide in understanding, hey, this is kind of things in my personality I need to work through, right? But I feel like at some
hmm
point it's also important for us also not to over identify also with that, because we're also feeding into that narrative.
Totally,
Hmm. Hmm.
totally. I think it like, like the human brain compartmentalizes things
Yes.
for efficiency. Like that's just how we are built, right? We evolved to
Hmm.
do that so that we could build great structures and collaborate in these manners. And words allow us the 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 language allows us to make these connections with other people. But when it's too structured, when it's not given any type of fluidity, then you run
Hmm.
into issues of not just creativity but identity as well. And so like, a family is, a mom and dad and two kids. No, a family is a group of people that care about each other
Yeah.
and whatnot. And
Yes.
so
Yes.
like your structure of this person is, they have ADHD, autism, whatever, da 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 da. Like you said, it's a guide for them to understand a baseline of temperaments and emotions and reactions. But that doesn't mean that you're stuck, like, and it doesn't mean that doesn't identify you as that thing. Like you're still much more than that. And so I think that it's important to kind of give some grace with that too. Like I understand that I have these isms. I understand that these are my diagnoses, but that doesn't have to rule and dictate who I am every day. It's just a guidebook for how I can work through whatever is ailing me every day, because I understand that about myself. Now I have, there's a tool set for that, but that is not who I am.
Yeah. So the next time I see you or like talk to you, I don't want to hear like anxious attachment.
Okay.
I would love to see you whenever I'm in you're in San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
Would love to like see you then whenever I'm in the area.
Yeah. Let's have lunch.
Or if you ever go to where Dr. Donna is, you should hit her up.
I'm in Providence.
Where are you? New York?
No, Rhode Island.
Providence, Rhode Island. Oh my God. I did a state report on Rhode Island in like 5th grade. It was fierce. It was fierce. With your one little mountain.
Tiny, smallest state.
Isn't it a trash heap too or something? Yeah.
No.
But you have like the largest.
Maybe you probably would know more than I do, but we do have nice beaches.
Yes, and you have like the largest like coastline or something. I can't remember. This was 5th grade, but yeah, it's a cool state. I've never been. I want to go.
Yes.
If you ever, then you know.
So you'll be my guide.
I will be your guide. Yes.
But so like kind of as we're wrapping up,
and I'll take you to a circuit party.
Yes, please.
So as we're wrapping up, we have like 2 more questions left for you.
Sure.
So what are some steps we need to see in our society and communities to see more cross-racial ethnic solidarity, within the queer community, to be better accomplices both inside and outside?
I think within the community, we need to stop self-segregating. I think that, that is something for the 1800s, and we need to stop doing that here. It's bad enough that we are marginalized into spaces that we have to create in order to feel safe and a community. But what we end up doing, and I'm definitely guilty of this as well, is like kind of stripping the heteronormativity of it completely, so that there's like no option for hetero people to join, women to join. They're kind of sneered upon, like, oh my God, who brought the girl, da 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 da. And it's one of those things where it's like, if you want to be seen as an equal in this community, you kind of have to allow the others in the community to join in. Now, it's not to say that, hey, just overtake our spaces, because there is still a reason why we have them. But if you're like respectful of the space and you're just there to enjoy the party and not look at us as zoo animals, then you should be able to do so without feeling the sneer of the LGBTQ community. And then I guess it's more external, but kind of piecing them both together. But also internally, like, we need to understand that we are all marginalized in various ways, but it's all against the larger, again, Western beauty standard culture of the hypermasculinity, the patriarchy, all of that. So instead of deciding like my thing is more important, my thing is more important, my thing is more important, we need to hold hands and understand that we are all different in various ways, but these differences make us they puts a bullseye on us, and we have a voice that is amplified when more of us come together. And these differences also aren't just like physical or mental or emotional. They're beautiful. They allow us to experience life in a richer tapestry because we're all different, instead of being a homogenous grouping of of the same people. And so for us to get a better understanding of what it is to be human, a whole human, like, we need to meet different humans. And that means reaching out from the group of people that look like you, the group of people that you only want to have sex with, like friends that like you only keep around for A, B, and C. Like, go out and do something out of your norm to meet people out of your norm, so that maybe you can be brought into their spaces and vice versa. And like, and this is within the gay community itself. Like maybe you join a gay basketball league, or board game night, or something that you do instead of going to the clubs, and then you see how other people live, and it gives you a different view and a greater appreciation for that. But yeah, and just the idea of being welcoming it's so simple and so easy, and yet it's so difficult for everyone. I think it's just like, it's so hard for people to be welcoming to each other.
Yeah, it doesn't kill you to be kind. Like, like even when you're just like walking around, greet someone, say hello, or like,
Right.
things like that. And I love the actionable examples you gave of how we can be better accomplices. So thank you for stating those steps in like what that also looks like, right? And our last question is, what advice do you have for the younger generation? So if you could meet your younger self, what advice would you have given yourself back then?
I would say start saving now. And that's for my young self, and for the younger generation, start saving now. Those new stocks for the hot, like random companies that come out, just buy the stocks. I would say that like, don't, and this is hard for me too, like don't give up, and really like feed yourself the energy and the love that you may be missing from wherever, and find the community that will help feed it to you. And then when you get it, like, send it back into the world, like each one teach one type deal. Takes a village, blah blah blah, all those idioms. It's true though, like, you will be your best self when you have people to reflect that back to you, and you reflect it back to them. So find your community, and they may be under a rock that you haven't looked at, like a gay cribbage night, or whatever. But like, just don't wallow in what is given to you when you can be so much more. Like, that's basically it. Like, reach out to people, because you never know who will be there to help you, and you never know what you'll find, right?
I have a specific question. Like, what would you give advice to a young queer boy?
Good question.
Well, a young queer Black boy for me,
a young queer
to
Black
make it
boy.
more personalized.
Yeah.
I would say that it does get better if you work towards it. So, like, don't self-victimize, because we are victimized already, right? So don't make life intentionally harder for yourself. Really work hard to find avenues in which you can represent yourself fully and make your biggest mark, because they're all out to get you. They're all out to make you look bad. And, not only is it an F you to them, it's a hug to yourself, like reminding yourself, like, I am capable, I can do this. So, like, really dive into your passions, if it's makeup, if it's art. If it's whatever, like, screw, I know, engineering, whatever it is, like, don't let anyone tell you that it's for girls, or it's like gay or whatever. Yeah, so what? It's gay. I'm gay too. But like, really just hone in on those things that you want to do and focus on them, because this is your life. It's nobody else's. And you'll be better off, more resilient, as a happy person doing the things that you want to do with the community that you want to be with. So when the egg hits your face and you're not feeling your best self, like, you can lay and fall back on that. Because if you're working a job you hate, if you're surrounded by people you hate, like, ultimately it eats at you, and you hate yourself for making these terrible choices. So, like, just be yourself, work towards your happiness, because again, this is your life.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for asking that question, Dr. Donna. And it really chasing your dreams and chasing what you're passionate about. And there will be obstacles. Your family might say no. Your family might tell you, no, you need to get an education that provides more money or whatever the hell it is.
Right.
But,
It's catchy.
but thank you so much for being with us here today and just being really like vulnerable and like authentic with us, and just for sharing your story with us. And I had such a great time talking to you. Like,
I know.
Yeah, this was fun.
I love the energy that we have in this, podcast. It was really like lively. Like I was just so into what you're saying, and that's why like I was coming up with questions that wasn't in the preset questions. So sorry if I threw people off.
No, that's the whole point of this.
No, it was
and
good.
we want this to be, I mean, we have questions just to guide us, right? But we want this to be conversational because
right,
we want to go deeper. And if someone is open to sharing like stories with us that has an impact on their identity and like their being in this world, we love to hear about that. So thank you for kind of doing that for us today. And
thank you for being your authentic self. Like really, really appreciate it. Love it.
Thank you for having me. This was fun. I was nervous at first, but you guys are really easy to talk to. And like this meant a lot to me because I have been dealing with this my whole life, and recently some various things that you had touched upon. So it's very cathartic for me to like be able to speak to new people about this and feel heard and understood. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to our podcast today. We hope you enjoyed the episode. For more information about today's guests and their social media links, you can click on the description links of the episode. Pooja Mami Dana and Dr. Donna Demanarig host this podcast. Our podcast team includes our podcast interns, Alexis Rios from the University of North Texas in Denton, Texas, and Petra Zadroga from Wheaton College in Norton, Massachusetts. We also want to acknowledge our production team, David DeVito and Rachel Sheffer.
If you would like to know more about us or to watch video clips of this interview, then follow us on Instagram at APADiv45_Presidential Task Force, on TikTok and X at APADiv45_Coakley, or on YouTube and Facebook at Dr. Kevin Coakley's APA Division 45 Presidential Task Force.
Strength and solidarity. There's strength and solidarity.